Anybody got a question they want to throw out? We got one over here. Hang on just a second. Let me go around the cameras.
So first, not necessarily a question, but just a comment. And I'm Stan Polatsky. I'm also on the Mayor's Bicycle Advisory Committee. And Molly mentioned about the parking issue. She and I were both involved with some projects that went in southeast Denver, on East Jewel and East Dartmouth. And it involved eliminating parking out of neighborhoods. And of course, the community got involved. You thought the world was going to come to an end. There would be gridlock. There would be total chaos involved. Well, the infrastructure went in with minimal concessions made by Dottie. And 2 years later, the lanes are still there, the bike lanes, and everybody is getting used to it.
Fine.
And several positive things happened. By putting in the bike lanes, it narrowed the traffic, the lane of travel. So the speeds have slowed down. There's also, I think, fewer amount of cut-throughs going on. So it can happen, and there were some concessions, and life went on. Along with that, I think about those folks that do the recreational riding, called interested but concerned, but I call them hesitant, okay?
Yeah.
Now, the neighborhood bikeways, which kind of is a bike streets, Vamos type of thing, it's really making good strides in Denver. And in the Complete Street Guidelines, I believe the range of speed on a neighborhood bikeway is 15 to 20. I know the default speed has been lowered to 20. For neighborhood bikeways, I think we should recommend and enforce a lower speed limit. Not that everybody's going to follow it, but drop it to 15 or maybe even 10. Because I think someone who's just a casual bike rider is still uncomfortable with a vehicle going at 20. 15 is different, 10, okay, it's in a neighborhood. What are your thoughts? And, and we talked about this on a ride, and with moving forward with the Dottie executive director, whoever's going to be in that position, so.
Yeah, I'm open to the discussion today. We require 20 miles an hour at a school zone. It'd be hard for me to defend, that you can go 20 in a school zone, but 10 when you're 3 blocks from the school zone. So I think we'd have to think about what makes sense to try to slow everyone down. I will share with you, I saw a new sign someone has produced for Kelly Brough for mayor. This is a true story. It's a beautiful star. If you haven't, you're gonna have to look for it around the city. I hadn't seen it until this last couple of days. And someone complained to me that it was too small and they had to really slow down to read it. That's part of my strategy now, to slow everybody down. My signs will be so small, you're like, what? I gotta go way slower to read what this chick is trying to tell me. Just a little humor. We have work to do about what's the right speed limit and frankly, Jewel and Dartmouth are 2 great examples of, that's not a parking problem. Y'all are gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Y'all are gonna be fine, yeah.
We're resilient, and we'll figure out how to make it work.
I'm going to ask about micromobility.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean like shared scooters, shared bikes.
Yeah.
Because Denver was like the first bike share city in the U.S., 2008 with B-Cycle. And now we have 2 private operators. But what I've noticed, this is my industry, is that the cities that have the most robust systems, New York City Bike, Boston has bikes, Chicago, there are others. The city is actually kicking in and subsidizing some of those systems. And I was wondering if that's something that would be on the table.
Huh. That's interesting. First, I'll let you know, I was chief of staff in 2008 and got to be part of the effort to be the first city who moved into B-Cycle, and it just felt so great. And part of it was, to be able to show ourselves we could get around without cars during the Democratic National Convention and start to change our behavior. I'll be really honest, no, I think is the answer, for some depressing reasons, but it's not because philosophically I don't think it wouldn't be nice. It's just I think we have a tough road ahead here. I think by all accounts it looks like things are going to slow down in our economy a little. We're pretty overextended today. I think the next mayor on day one is going to have to make some decisions. We spent $20 million of our contingency to manage the migrant situation we find ourselves in. we're hitting a cliff in terms of our funding to help people who are unhoused in our city. We've been using ARPA dollars primarily for that. So I say probably not, only because I think some of the challenges ahead. But I don't take it off the table because I think it's, to me, it's an example of like RTD, right? We know we have to subsidize transit options and alternatives if we're going to make them actually work. Today, RTD only receives about 30% of its entire funding from fares, and it's underwritten by all of us. And so I don't see this any different, and would be open to trying to figure it out. I just think we have a financial challenge. I know candidates aren't supposed to tell you that, but I'll try to always tell you the truth.
Appreciate that honesty. Appreciate you being real honest. I've got a question for you. I talked to an e-bike vendor who is alluding to the voucher program that's involved in Denver. I don't know if you want to speak to the voucher program around e-bikes, if you like it, if you want to change it, if you want to continue it.
Yeah, I love the rebate idea and helping support people transition and start using bikes and e-bikes. I think we could probably increase it. And I think I'd like to focus to make sure our communities who are least likely to be able to have access to those alternatives are getting that money first. And so you might see a shift around equity, maybe for me, as we focus on where those vouchers or rebates go.
I think that's a great answer. Do we have any questions from the audience? I think we've done a pretty good job. I think everybody's had a chance to speak here so far. Stephen's got another one. Sure, do it.
All right, so as you know, Colorado has a reputation for being a very healthy and outdoorsy state. Why is it that for the last 4 or 5 years we have not had a pro cycling event come through?
Yeah, this is a sad state of affairs. So when I was at the Chamber of Commerce, I got the chance to be part of the deal that brought the first U.S. pro cycling here. We even put money into the deal because it is a fabulous marketing about who we are. The healthiest, most active state in the United States. We're not actually all of those things, but remember, part of the Chamber is aspirational and selling a brand. We are still, by the way, the leanest state, and we are the most active. Those two things are pretty accurate. Yeah, that is awesome, isn't it? And the reason this is cool, though, is those two things mean we often have less cost in terms of our healthcare needs. And although I will say this, the cost of what we pay for healthcare does not reflect that. So I don't understand how it all works, but maybe on another forum we'll figure that out. But it went away, I think, because, underwriting the cost of it, figuring out how you pay to bring a cycling event to the United States. We're competing against world events that are incredible. That said, we did have the women's event most recently. And one of the things that I talked with the team about who was building that event was this challenge of, why don't you pay the same purse to the chicks that you pay to the dudes? And let's tell them we're also doing an equity event around gender, and they did just that. And I was extremely proud to see us host a sporting event for women that had the same kind of purse that a sporting event for men would. But it really is about underwriting and people, corporations willing to put their money in. We're a lot of small business in Colorado, and it makes it more challenging. That's the truth.
Yeah, so you're basically saying the pro races don't make money, huh? I mean,
yeah, they really don't. It really is a marketing strategy and positions companies, and we had some good companies who helped. But I think today we only have maybe still 10 Fortune 500 companies in our city, and that's who typically has the kind of resources to underwrite stuff like that.
Right. Any other questions from the audience here before we move into the conclusion phase? I'd like to give our panelists each a chance to kind of wrap it up. If you have any last thoughts or conclusion you want to give to our candidate to send her home with?
Some words of wisdom?
Yes.
I did not prepare for this segment. Yeah, I don't envy your schedule. I would just, say that there's lots of folks in this room who ride bikes, but there are many more people in our city who ride bikes because it's the most affordable way for them to get to all the daily destinations that they're trying to get to, and they're not the people that show up at public meetings. They're not the folks whose voices are most represented, and so I hope when you're making decisions that those folks' voices are in the back of your mind as well.
There's just a couple things I want to say in wrapping up. The first is that we're going to produce a white paper based on what we've heard here today and some of the other suggestions that have been submitted to us. We'll get those to the mayor, and we hope that those will be considered. I'm going to throw down a challenge with ClimateCon. I predict that in 3 days in January, we will do more for the climate than the United States Congress will do in all of 2023. All right? So you go ahead and fact check me on
I
this
think
one.
that's a safe bet, unfortunately.
Go ahead and fact check me on this one. Watch what Congress does this year, and then come January 5th, see what we've accomplished. And one last thing I want to say, I want to thank Ms. Brough for joining us. You're a true A-lister. You really lifted this event up, and we really appreciate you coming. Thank you so
Oh my
much.
gosh, thank you for having me. I'm so grateful. Thanks for the great questions.
Can we get a round of applause, please? Thanks so much.